Hello, 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 my wicked heretics, my disgusting Xenos, and even my blind lapdogs of the false emperor. Today we have the previews for half of the Chaos Legions from Warhammer community, so I thought it was about time to cover these. There's a lot of questionable stuff in there as far as the meta goes, but man, fluff-wise, this stuff is a heretic's wet dream. Fuck you, Big E. Now, let's get right into things. The first Legion they previewed is, of course, the Black Legion, and they have a more extensive preview than all the others too, since there is clearly some specific Black Legion focus on the new Vigilus release. The first thing we get to see of the new Black Legion is a new stratagem, namely Tip of the Spear, which allows you to reroll all hit rolls for the Black Legion unit closest to an enemy unit. If there are several units that are equidistant, you get to choose the one that gains this bonus. Also, do note that you do not have to shoot the closest unit. You gain this bonus against any target on the unit that happens to be closest to an enemy. Honestly, for what I'm guessing to be one command point, this stratagem is great. Of course, it looks like it'll work very well with Terminators or overall deep strike strategies, but more on that later. For now, we can cover the new Black Legion artifact we were shown. It's called an Angel's Bane, and it only replaces a combi bolter, making it a nice little 2 points worth of firepower. It comes with a very impressive stat line, to be fair, of Rapid Fire 2 at 24 inches, like a normal combi bolter, but with a strength of 5, minus 2 AP, and 2 damage. Furthermore, if you shoot this bad boy at an Imperium keyword unit, its damage becomes 3. 3! This weapon gets me all giddy. Really, especially with the new bolter discipline rule and the way it works with Terminators. This too also seems like an excellent addition to, say, Terminator Lord. Since you won't really have many characters with a combi bolter that close to the enemy, it's almost as if they're pushing for a Black Legion Terminator force. A Black Legion Terminator force such as the Bringers of Despair. Yes, my dear cultists, we can now actually field Abaddon's favorite elite with rules for the Bringers of Despair. They come as a special detachment, so you apply the stratagem called Bringers of Despair to a detachment of Black Legion units, which then grants all Terminator units in the detachment the Bringers of Despair keyword. A Vanguard detachment of 3 Terminator units with a Terminator Lord seems like a perfect fit for this, both thematically and rules-wise, and a minimally equipped such detachment would cost you a total of 611 points. A huge cost, yes, but might at least be fun. The 2 special features we have seen for this detachment right now are as follows. 1. Brutal Subjugation, a stratagem that can be used at the start of the fight phase, which allows you to pick 1 Bringers of Despair unit from your army. Each enemy model they kill in this phase counts as 2 models in the following morale phase. Now, honestly, this is fairly disappointing, considering most things infantry will be dead, or soon to be dead, if Terminators engage them in melee, but maybe this opens up some weird attack-splitting multi-charge tactics or something. After all, the Terminators don't care too much for Overwatch on account of their bullshit armor saves, and the effect of the stratagem itself is good. Would be nice to see it work with shooting attacks, but oh well, it is what it is. The second feature we've been shown, however, is a new Warlord trait specifically meant for the Bringers of Despair. It's called Chosen of the War Master, and it gives the Warlord a 6-inch aura that allows allies to reroll hit rolls of 1. However, if the Warlord already has the Chaos Lord aura that does the same thing, it is instead upgraded to reroll all hit rolls within 6 inches for Bringers of Despair units. As an excellent addition to all of these, the Black Legion now also have the Field Commander stratagem, which will probably be extended to all the legions, which, for 1 command point, allows you to give a character in a specialist detachment a Warlord trait specific to that detachment, even if you already have a Warlord selected. Of course, this makes the character a Warlord only as far as giving him the trait, but you can get as many of these as you have specialist detachments, making for an interesting, if command point hungry strategy. As a last tidbit for the Black Legion, they have now made official that our good friend Harken Worldclaimer, also known as that one shitty character who buffs only raptors, will apply his aura to all raptors, regardless of Legion. Sure, why not? Now, moving on from the Black Legion, we have shorter previews for some more traders. Starting off with the Iron Warriors, we get to see that their trait is still Siege Lord, and still offers them the same benefits, namely, ignore cover and full rerolls to wound against buildings. What isn't the same about them, however, is that they gain their own specialist detachment in the form of Devastation Battery. Come on, Devastation Battery? It sounds awesome! This detachment gives the Devastation Battery keyword to any Chaos Lords, Warpsmiths, Havocs, and Obliterators in the selected detachment, so it seems to be a fairly varied option with bonuses to both Deep Strike Shooty Surprises via, Obliterators, as well as to a nice backfield gunline with support Chaos Lords and lots of Havocs. Quite a fan of this, to be honest, since the meta is gunlines. Now, the other update to this is that the Iron Warriors get a specific Warlord trait for the Devastation Battery, namely Armor Bane, granting the Warlord a 6-inch aura that provides rerolls of wound rolls of 1 for all attacks made against vehicles. Obviously, this will work wonders for the gunlines, making a Chaos Lord provide rerolls to both hits and wounds whenever you roll 1. Kinda like a lieutenant and a captain, but the same guy. The way I see it, this might worm its way into the meta, since ignoring cover isn't too bad and the lack of wound rerolls was a severe drawback to Chaos gunlines. I'll certainly be experimenting with this one with my local players since I see great potential here. Now, as I said, the non-Black Legion teasers are much shorter, so we're gonna move on to the Night Lords. Now, the Night Lords are a rather unfortunate legion, both in their canon and on the tables currently, since their morale shenanigans don't really add up to much, but here they are, with some new rules for whatever they're worth. The Night Lord's Legion trait remains Terror Tactics, giving all their infantry, bikers, and dreadnoughts a 6-inch aura that reduces leadership of enemy units by 1 up to a maximum of -3. And they now get a special detachment called a Host Raptorial, which will affect jump-packed units in a detachment. I know I'm being quite the pessimist here, but unless Raptors and Warp Talons have been severely changed, this will mean very, very little, as they are very weak units. If anything, the Raptors might make decent shooty distractions with their Deep Strike and maybe plasma guns or such, but nothing more. And Games Workshop keeps wanting to push them towards melee with their pathetic 1 attack each. Seriously, they suck. Anyway, they also gain a stratagem for the Raptorial host called Terror Strike. You get to use it when an enemy unit is destroyed by a Host Raptorial unit. It gives all Host Raptorial units a further -1 leadership 6-inch aura until the end of the turn. Sure thing, with 3 Raptors, Harkon, Nurgle Banners of Despair, and this stratagem you can reduce leadership by like 6 or such, and then you add Butcher Cannons from Forge World, and you reduce it further to 8, whatever. It's still extremely unimpressive, however, as the units themselves are disappointing and are very unlikely to kill anything, seeing how the Raptors are mostly worthless in melee, and the Warp Talons do carry decent weapons, but cannot reroll their charges and die like little bitches. Still, as far as fluff goes, it certainly is very cool to have people screaming in terror as the Night Lords descend upon them, in midnight clad, It just won't be as terrifying when your opponent laughs and kills them all with lasguns. I'll move on before the salt overtakes me. It is not a good pain. We have more previews for the Renegade chapters, and man, these are really cool. So, they start with chapter Legion traits. The Crimson Slaughter get a trait called A Moment's Peace. Now, as sweet as cuddly as that might sound, these fucks get their peace only after a fresh slaughter. So accordingly, this trait grants them a roll of a d6 after the units destroy an enemy unit. If you roll 5 out on that d6, you gain a command point. This would have been fairly insane before the CP farm nerfs, but even right now it seems like a damn solid trait to have. Pretty neat. The second trait we were shown is for the Red Corsairs, and it's called Raiders from the Maelstrom. This allows them to advance and charge in the same turn, and, in addition to this, all of their detachments provide 1 extra command point. Furthermore, if they have 3 or more units of Chaos Space Marines, the old dick suck tacticals, they gain 3 command points bonus. Now this is basically the old Renegades trait, but much improved. Odd, seeing how it was one of the better traits, but hey, I ain't complaining. Hell, 5-man squads of CSM might actually see play with this, like legitimate board time. Might experiment with them a little, or maybe a little more, since the Trader 16, with 15 Chaos Space Marines and some character, might become a Chaos version of the Loyal 32, It's probably our most cost-effective way of gaining more command points in any army. Moving on, we got some new stratagems for specific renegades. Namely, all life is worthless for the purge, which, for 1 command point, allows you to select a unit with the purge keyword that is not within 1 inch of enemy models, so not engaged in melee, and allows that unit to shoot at enemies which are engaged in melee, freely. But for each unmodified hit roll of 1 for these shots, you have to resolve the shot against one of your units caught up in the same melee. Friendly fire aside, this stratagem might see some kind of use, since you can tie up people with meat shield cultists, then shoot away freely. I like it. I want to use it, even if just to break the rules a little, you know? Shoot a cultist, shoot a loyalist, who cares? Furthermore, the Scourged also gain a stratagem, called Prescience, kinda like the spell. This one costs 2 command points, and is meant to be played after your enemy sets up a unit that is arriving as reinforcements. Deep Strike, you know? When you use it, you can pick a Scourged infantry unit from your army, within 12 inches of the guy who deployed, and shoot the fucker to bits! With no penalties! Now this thing's brilliant to cuck up some deep stripping fucks, like, you know, bloodletter bombs. Honestly, these stratagems both seem fairly good, with the Scourge one seeming excellent. I'm pleasantly surprised to see Chaos, and especially the often neglected Renegades, get rules that are this good. It gives me hope for this updated CSM Codex. Now we also have 2 revealed Warlord traits, namely Carve the Runes for the Brazen Beasts. These guys are cornets and personal combat is their fetish, so this trait gives their Warlord 2 extra attacks and 2 more strength for the rest of the battle every time he kills a character. Now, the buffs themselves are extremely impressive, but characters are usually few and almost never exposed, and you can't have Karn the Betrayer be their Warlord, so it'll most likely end up as a weaker version of the World Eater's Slaughterborn trait. Still cool as all shit, just not necessarily too good. The second one is for the Scourge, and it's called Shattering Truth. Shattering Truth basically allows the Warlord to select an enemy unit within 3 inches of him at the start of each fight phase. What it does is that for the rest of the phase, the chosen unit has to fight last, even if it charged. If the unit has some ability that allows it to fight first, it instead fights as normal. I don't think this will change the whole lot in many situations, but when it gets to be used, this will be very powerful. Imagine someone charging you with their most important melee unit, only to have it fight last after being punched in the dick by half your army and losing most of its models, you know? Finally, we have 2 artifacts for the Renegades, and these are the Flawless Cloak for, of course, the Flawless Host. It increases the bearer's attacks by 1, and the range of their aura abilities by 3 inches. Seems like a perfect fit for an Exalted Champion or a Dark Apostle looking to buff a bunch of Possessed or other misfits. Short and sweet, but seems like it'll be decent to use. The second one is more interesting. It's called Maelstroms Bite, and this one replaces Combi Meltas for Red Corsairs. It's a Combi Melta that buffs both profiles, with the bolter part being 24-inch rapid fire 3, normal strength of 4, minus 1 AP, and 2 damage, while the Melta part is just a normal Melta gun with 9 strength of 8. You still get to roll 2 dice if you're in half range for Melta damage, and you still have to apply a penalty of 1 to all hit rolls if you shoot both profiles. But honestly, Strength 9 Melta is fucking awesome. Like, that is what Melta lacks this edition. It can't wound worth a shit. This one seems like it'll work wonders on Terminator Lords, which might see more play after the updated Codex hits, since both the Black Legion and the Red Corsairs have good artifacts for them, while the Red Corsairs just generate a whole lot more command points so you can afford said artifacts. And now, as a final but very welcome surprise, we have expanded rules for the Fallen. Yes, my boys, the Fallen are becoming more and more like an army. It seems like the Fallen keyword will be extended to Chaos Sorcerers and Rhinos, metal boxes, via the new Specialist detachment called Fallen Angels. Beyond this, Cypher gets a bit of an update, with his new Agent of Discord ability denying the use of any Warlord trait or relic that generates command points within 12 inches of him, a range which increases up to 24 inches if there's 20 or more friendly Fallen Angels models within 12 inches of Cypher. This is certainly gonna fuck with some people, and the Fallen will, I think, see a lot more play, as many people really like them, and their rules are getting better and better, since they're now a good way to include more sorcerers. They also gain a special stratagem called Without Trace, which is used at the start of an enemy shooting phase. You get to pick a Fallen Angels unit that is entirely within a terrain feature, so in cover. All hit rolls that target them take a -1 penalty until the end of the phase, making them a lot harder to dislodge from whatever objective you have them camping on. And if you're still listening to this, if you've, for some reason, made it this far through my bullshit, I'd like to thank you, first and foremost, but also let you know that I'm finally moving out of my mother's basement, as far as sound quality goes. That's right, my new, hopefully much better microphone is on its way, and future videos should certainly sound much better. Now, enough of my antics. I can't wait to see the rest of the Chaos Legions previews, and I'll see you guys next time.